Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tech Guys Who Invest. Today on our show, we're going to be talking about paying your dues now. Hey, Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Adam. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Living the dream.
That's right. The humidity is picking up here in Tampa, but the sky is blue and the sun's out, and I really can't complain.
As always, every time I talk to some friends up north, I make them jealous by telling them what the temperature is here.
That's very true.
So, we decided to talk about a pretty interesting topic today called paying your dues now. What does that mean to you, Kevin?
That's a very good question. And to me, paying your dues is doing all the work that you don't really want to do right now to set yourself up for that success later. Trying to be successful in anything, not to go off on a tangent, requires work. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think that's the best way you're going to learn is taking action and the lessons that come along with that. The confidence you're going to build too with each of these things. I don't like negotiating. I'm not the best at it. I would argue that I'm pretty damn terrible at it. So I know that I have to refine that to be better at it.
Yeah, I agree. And when I think about it, I have very similar thoughts. To me, it's about buckling down now and working hard right now and doing things you may not feel like right now, basically delaying gratification so that you can reap the reward later and knowing it'll pay off. Really working hard now, expecting a return on that investment of hard work later.
Yeah, so that pausing that gratification, I think, is a good way of looking at it because you're trying to build something, build whether it's build a system, build a business, something to that effect, and you can't build a business effectively without knowing how to do what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of angles we can take on this subject. One thing that pops into my mind when I think about things like this are how I'm doing this now at my age. And it's harder for me to do this right now than it would have been 10 years ago. Honestly, I had a lot more energy when I was younger, right? Um, I'm in my mid 40s, and it takes a lot of energy to do what we're both doing in different ways, right? To essentially start an investment business and to begin something that's very difficult. So it goes through my head a lot that it's all the more important that I continue to push through this and put in the hard work now, because how much less am I going to feel like doing this 10 years from now when I'm in my mid 50s?
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to spend time with your wife and your daughters, like that's all going to be things to consider. So, how do you differentiate between paying your dues and finding a way to maximize your time?
That's a good question. Maximizing my time, I think, is part of paying your dues. In other words, I consider what I'm doing to be the highest and best use of my time right now. So, first of all, I'd like to say that I do dedicate time for the most important thing to me, which is my family. I'm really good about that. Um, but when I'm not that, and when I'm not at work, I'm really trying to get my investment and my wealth profile built and snowballing, because to me that is the best use of my time. So to answer your question, I feel like that is how I'm maximizing my time, by working hard. And I feel like we only have a limited amount of time on this earth, and you have to just live the best life you possibly can and do what you think is absolutely the best use of your time at any given moment. And so I really feel like that's what I do right now.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I also think that, for example, I hired a VA recently to do certain things for me that still propelled the business forward, but it's like there's only one of me. So freeing up my time to do other things like blogging or looking and analyzing deals. The VA has no business analyzing deals because it's not their investor identity. So I'll bring them on to put them in the process of doing things that will help get me deals. That's what I'm also asking about that. It's like, how do you determine, hey, I've put in my dues enough here. I need to find somebody else to do it.
Yeah, that's a really great idea and a good concept to leverage your time by systematizing or finding ways to have others do tasks that are a lesser use of your time. I also have a VA that I've used to do some of those type of tasks. And this is an area where I'm trying to develop and get a little better at defining those types of things that I can further leverage that VA to do for me. But I think that's a really good one. Systematizing things. So finding out the right system that helps the most efficient way to do some processes, that certainly helps as well.
Yeah, establishing, hey, is this the best and most effective use of your time? And if not, finding somebody or something to outsource it. I know that you and I use social media tools sometimes to schedule our posts, and I think that is huge. That's just an example of how you can do that. And the reason you'd want to do that is we're in the business of educating people because we're so passionate about getting out of the rat race through investing that we want to share content that people can learn more about, and kind of that's where we use social media to post for us so that we're not on our phones 24/7 trying to figure out what content we should put out. So I think that's something to be said as well.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that I'm working on right now, and I find it kind of tough actually, is to find a way to leverage the VA more. You know, find a way to really provide them with tasks that can take things off my plate. I feel like I have to provide instructions for them to do tasks, which takes time. Over time, it'll make up for it. But for me, you know, it just I guess it's not intuitive to think about all of the things I can use them for. So I'm still learning in that area.
Yeah, you got to get creative with it. And I think you can't give them a process that you yourself have not tried or you're not familiar with, or that you couldn't instruct them clearly enough. Because if they give you the results you weren't expecting, then it's almost like, well, that's kind of your own fault.
Right. So, you know, another thing that kind of plays into what we're talking about here is the expense of that. You know, I mean, you could look at this two ways. You can look at, well, it costs me money to use a VA. It costs me money to buy some kind of a subscription service that may save me time, or you know, it costs me money to go to that conference and learn more about what I'm doing here. That's to me is another example of paying your dues up front because you expect to get rewarded for that in the future by paying it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So when it comes to putting in the work, how are you putting in the work? Like, walk me through something that you're doing where you feel like you're putting in the work as a multifamily investor.
A lot of it is learning, to be honest with you. As I've said before, I don't consider myself an expert yet. I'm certainly a student, and I'm spending a lot of time learning. For example, I will analyze deals and really try to be aware of different components of the deal that I may not have thought about before. So I'll get a deal and I'll run it through my underwriting and I'll think about different pieces of the analysis and what that means and how it may compare across deals. So, you know, that's one way is just continuing to learn. And what that will help me with is the deals that I'm making offers on, really understanding those very well when I'm negotiating and trying to take down the deal. How
So a
about
lot of it
yourself?
is, yeah, good question. So I'm in the same boat. Education is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Learning more and more about the note investing space. I would say building relationships is something that's putting in the work. Talking to people, seeing how you can add value to them is putting in the work. Whether it's, hey, do you know somebody that can do this? Or uh, asking them a question, hey, have you thought about doing this? Finding a way that I can add value to them immediately. Because I don't have any deals at the moment that I can sell, right? Or that I don't have a pipeline yet where I could say, hey, are you looking to partner up or something along those lines? So I think building those relationships itself is work. And that's something that I cannot put a team member in place yet because I don't know how to forge those relationships at an expert level. That's something that I'm learning along the way too. So that's probably the biggest thing. It's building those relationships, just talking to people, figuring out ways that I can grow my network so that I have additional pieces of knowledge if I ever needed to.
Yeah, networking is certainly another one for me as well. I know the cash flow game that you and I host here in Tampa is a great example. You know, we take time out of our evening every 3 weeks and host that game. And it's, you know, it's something where it's time consuming, but it is a valuable activity, and it's something where we're paying our dues, we're putting the time in, and I think we'll be rewarded for that.
Yeah, I do too, 100%. I think we have that vision. So how do you, look, it's not easy, I would say, trying to do this whole thing. What keeps you motivated or inspired to do this, make this process happen?
It's my why. That you have to have a strong why, or else you will give up. I think most people would, because you're right. It's not easy. When I first started getting into this, I just found a lot of sources that make it sound like it's a lot easier than it is. Honestly, it's hard work. Um, if you don't have a strong why, I think you'll probably tend to give up at some point. I do have a strong why. We talked about that in a previous episode. It's my freedom lifestyle that I call it. So that's my strong why, and that keeps me going. How about yourself, Kevin? What keeps you motivated?
Same. It's that vision of that freedom, that ability to focus on the things that I absolutely want, to make working a 9 to 5 optional, and being able to help others along the way. I think that's important to me too. Is I'm a big believer in abundance. Well, as soon as I figure something out, I will teach people, and I'll do what I can to give it out for free. Don't get me wrong. I do think that you should get compensated for value you add, but at that same time, whatever I am learning, I'm more than happy to share, because I think that's the most important thing, is just trying to help others along the way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I definitely have the heart of a teacher. I love to teach other people and help them along and help them learn what I'm learning.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. So if for our listeners, if they want to put in the work today, what's one thing that you could recommend, regardless of the asset class that they are going to start investing in?
What's one activity I would recommend that they do? Is that the
Correct.
question? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's gotta be education if you're just getting started. It really has to be learning about what would align to your goals. You know, take the time to figure out your vision and why you would want this, and write down your goals. Spend some time really thinking about them, and then that will help you find the right fit for your goals. And I think time spent in that area, paying your dues up front in that area, would be a really valuable way to spend your time. How about you, Kevin? What do you think?
I agree with the education, but you said something there that I think is more important, is figuring out what the goals are and figuring out, that's building that self-awareness of what it is you really want. And
Mhm.
I think our earlier episode 4, figuring out your investor identity, is huge, because it's easy to get lost in the shiny objects that are out there. Like if you watch HGTV, don't get it looks cool when they can flip a house and it's like, wow, these are all the profits and all that stuff. That sounds exciting. That's a lot more work than I think people realize. And if you're not willing to do that work, or if you kind of get stuck in that for some odd reason, you're just like, oh crap, this is more than I thought, you kind of get set back. So I think it's really important to understand what it is you want, and also what you're good at. Not everybody is going to be a good fit for flipping a house. So there's a self-awareness to figure out, hey, what am I strongest at, and how can I apply my uh, the natural talents to further my success?
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
All right, well, that was it for putting in the work. It's not easy, but it is worth it when you have a strong enough why. So we hope that you're able to figure that out on your end. We can only help guide you to think about your why, but we can't answer that for you. You shouldn't have anybody answer that for you. That's something that you have to sit and think about. So once you figure that out, the putting in the work feels easier.
Yeah, and we'd like to hear from you if you have questions or comments, or want to chat with either one of us personally about some of the things you heard on this episode. Please reach out to us. you can reach out to us on our website, Tech Guys Who Invest, TGWI podcast.com, or on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, reach out to us. We'd love to interact with you guys.